home brewers, I am JabeerIni and I'll show you today how I'll brew my first stout at home. For this season I've decided to step up on the technical side, which is why I won't be designing my recipes using exclusively my common sense. Instead, I've been using the help of great tools such as Brewers Friends software. The type of stout I'll be brewing today is a dry stout. It doesn't get any simpler than that, but I've decided to do so because I'll be trying two new things. The first one is the use of oatmeal. This is not going to be an oatmeal stout. This will be a dry stout, as I said, but I'll be using oatmeal as fermentables. The second thing I'll be trying today is the sour beer technique, but I'll get into those details in a minute once we're brewing. So, since I'll be already experimenting with these two variables, and even if the idea of adding vanilla or coffee or chocolate really appealed to me, I thought that this would only be multiplying uncertainty, and I'd rather have a very good base stout with which I could then experiment. And that only means that I'll be brewing more than one stout, if it all goes well, hopefully. By the way, in case you're wondering what's that in the back, that's the second batch of my double IPA. I just loved it, I ran out of it, and I had to rebrew it. So, with that being said, and without further ado, let's get brewing that stout! And here we are in the kitchen, so let's take a look at the ingredients we'll be using. As usual, 5 liters of water in this container, which we'll be using as a fermenter. Now the fermentables. 850 grams of pale ale malt. In this case I'm using this one, Baird, because I've never used it before, and they say it's apparently similar to Maris Otter, so I said why not to give it a try. 100 grams of whole grain rolled oats. Now the specialty grains. 50 grams of roasted barley. I don't know why it's named black in this pack, but I order it as roasted barley. 40 grams of chocolate malt and 25 grams of crystal, which is becoming one of my favorite specialty grains. Now the hops. 10 grams of yeast canned Goldings. As a fining agent, we'll be using a quarter of a tablet of prata. And last, but most important, we'll be using half a packet of this yeast, Liberty Bell Ale by Mangrove Jacks. Normally I would have used the M42, which is my personal favorite, but when I was ordering it, they didn't have any, which confirms that that's a very good yeast. So let's give this one a try. I've read some very good reviews of this one. And that's it, so let's get it on! In case you didn't know, I always publish the whole recipe below. Let's start pouring the whole content off the bottle. And we need to get this to 66 degrees. In the meantime, I'll be measuring the grains and hops. And here we have our grains and hops. The smell of these grains, the roasted barley and chocolate, is amazing. It's pure and very high quality coffee. And here we have our only hop addition, yeast canned Goldings. It's only for bittering, because we don't want any hop protagonism in this one. We just want this big boys to do all the work. Our water is already at the desired temperature, so it's time to begin the mash. Let me give you a better view, and in they go. This will be a 60-minute mash, and I'll be back once it's done for the sparge. Cheers! Alright, so 60 minutes have passed, and here's the result. Look at this. It looks like fresh coffee in the morning. The color is amazing, the color is deep dark, and the smell is coffee. I just smell coffee. So it's time to sparge. I'm sparging with a little bit more than a liter boiling water. Don't be afraid if you need to use some more, because this will be a 90-minute boil, so we're gonna lose a big amount of water. It pays to be patient. We need to get as much of the goodness out of these grains as possible. The reason for the 90-minute boil is, I believe, it's because we need some caramelization in the wort for two purposes. One is flavor, and the second one is, of course, the color. Even if, as you could see, the color is the least of my concerns now. That is, I would say, solid. It's not black. It's a very dark brown. Almost black. At the same time, I'm gonna turn this to maximum power. So I'll be back once we have that rolling boil. Cheers! And here we have it. So we have to wait 30 minutes before the first hop addition. I'll be back then. Cheers! Alright, 30 minutes have passed, and this is important for two reasons. Number one, we're gonna collect 300 milliliters of this wort to make our sour beer. I'll give you more details in just a second. And it's also time to add our bittering hops. Actually, the only hop addition. So still an hour to go. Alright, so what I did here is I took 300 milliliters of the wort before adding the hops. And basically all what I'm gonna do with it is I'll color it and then I'll just leave it. This wort will then become sour and we'll have a lot of sediments here, around more or less 100 milliliters. The remaining liquid is what we will use to add it to the beer once it's almost entirely fermented. The purpose of this is to give the beer a better and more crispy flavor. So if it all goes well, that's what we're gonna have. So I'll be back 15 minutes before the end of the boil for the prata addition. Cheers! Okay, 15 minutes before the end of the boil, time to add the equivalent of 1/4 of a tablet of prata. I say equivalent because when I was cutting it, I just crushed it. So anyway, in quantity, there is 1/4 of a tablet of prata. And now all we have to do is wait until the end of the boil. I'll be back. And it's over. Time to turn this off and cool it down. So I'll be stirring this until we reach 27 to 25 degrees. I'll be back once it's ready. Cheers! And here it is, less than 27 degrees. Now it's ready to strain the hops off. Let's do that. And here we go. This was really easy considering the small amount of hops that we used. Alright, so let's take a gravity reading and transfer it to the fermenter. Here's the sample I took for the gravity reading. Here's a pic for you to see it clearer. As I see it, the reading is 1057 because it's just a wee bit below 1056. So let's call it 1057. That's a good original gravity for this type of beer, and that hopefully will produce a beer above 5%. I'm aiming 5.5% ABV. So it's time to pitch the yeast. Here I've got half of this packet. Since this is 10 grams, this is 5. So let's pitch it. Just make sure everything goes in there. Here I have the lid, which has been sanitized. As always, I drilled a hole for the airlock, which has also been sanitized, and it's filled halfway. So let's put the sanitized lid on, and that's it. Now, here is the wort that I collected. I covered it with film, and I've been reading. There is no specific guideline as to how long I should wait for it. It says wait for some days. So I'll give it 3 days and then I'll be back to show you what I do with it, which will be a great time to also show you how things are going with the fermentation of our soon-to-be great stout. So see you in 3 days. Cheers! Alright, so it's been now 3 days. got a haircut, I really needed it. And it's time for the sour wort or sour beer edition. Let me get you closer for you to see it better. Here we have it. I'm gonna spray my hands with a little star san. As you can see, there's something on top. It's like a little foam. This is, according to what I've read, this is perfectly normal. In fact, this is what we were looking for. Alright. So what we're gonna do is, with the help of this tool, we're gonna suck, I would say 100 milliliters, probably 200 milliliters, and we're gonna boil it for 30 minutes. I'm using this instead of directly pouring it because there are a lot of sediments. Let me move the camera for you to see them better. There they are. Those sediments, we don't want them in our beer. So let's get to it. And I think that's enough, because otherwise I would be picking some of the sediments. So let's get this to a boil. And here's the boil that we needed. Now we need to keep it boiling for 30 minutes. One detail that I forgot to mention, but better late than never, is that this wort was kept in a dark and cold place, but not in the fridge. So I just kept it in the coldest place in this house, which is an armoire, and there it was for 3 days. I'll be back once it's done. Cheers! Alright, 30 minutes have passed. As you can see, it has reduced a lot, and now it's ready to be cooled down. This is cold water, and now we need to get this to less than 20 degrees, which is the temperature of the fermenting wort. Alright, so this is ready now to be transferred to the fermentation vessel. Let's go! There's the fermentation vessel. I just took the airlock off. Here we have our sour beer. I don't know why it's called sour beer if it's a wort. But in any case, here we are. And let's go. We just leave it like that until fermentation is done. So this is it for this video. I hope you find it useful, or at least that you had some fun, as much as I did. If you like what you see, like, and don't forget to subscribe. And as usual, thanks for watching. Cheers and beers!